Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode this week. My name's Shay Ryan Douglas from the EHTV platform, and we're back with Tiago from Syntropic Solutions. We got Yossi joining in with us again, and also special guest, Jay Jackson, field technician and working with Syntropic Solutions. We're really excited because in the last couple of weeks, just to do a little recap, we've explored topics around what is Syntropy, where did it start, where did it come from. We've looked at last week a really great example of Syntropy in action with the Lightning Ridge project, which is phenomenal to see that this can be taken to any environment and landscape, and we can see plants, edible plants thrive. And this week, we're going to explore another project that is extremely exciting here in far north Queensland, a research project that is looking at how we can take these principles, these solutions that are available, and implement them on a large scale. So if we look at large industrial scale confectionery items that could be produced in a way that is regenerating the landscape, regenerating the soil and the earth, and also providing huge produce for many different people to enjoy. So Jay Jackson, field technician for this project, would you like to just share a little bit and just after Jay shares on why this project is so exciting, we're going to show you a little short snippet video that is going to highlight on the ground what impact this project will have for the future. So Jay, tell us a little bit about this project, please.
Great, thanks Shay, and yeah, good to be here with everybody. I always get excited talking about Syntropics and especially growing chocolate. So yeah, this is a really innovative project in a sense, but it's also groundbreaking in that we have, such a large company, and Mars Sustainable Solutions that are investing, in being leaders of sustainable solutions to what we're experiencing in our environmental agricultural sectors. And some of those things are, soil degradation, nutrient loss, nutrient runoff, and that flow-on effect affecting our waterways and into the oceans. So this project that we're working on is a research project for a trial of growing cocoa in a syntropic system, also known as agroforestry or agroecology. And that is growing the trees in more like a forest environment in which most fruit trees would typically thrive in a natural setting. So the project on a whole from Mars Sustainable Solution actually focuses on three main areas, which is around protecting the reef in tropical waters and the soil life, and also carbon sequestration in the soil, as well as enhancing pollination. And so our third of that is looking at soil health, diversifying the income for farmers, and also improving the livelihoods and the environment that supports the cacao trees. And that would typically be, in a conventional sense, often a very chemical-based approach. So the reason why I get so excited and so happy, to be working on this, especially now in this time, is how we can move away from these chemicals, or from what we know is damaging our soils and waterways, and move towards a more sustainable, regenerative future. Yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Jay. Is there anything you want to share, Tiago, before we show the film? Short video?
No, let's show the video first, and then we talk a little bit more how this project came to us and where we're going with it.
Hey guys, my name is Jay Jackson, and I'm excited to introduce to you a new Syntropic project that's looking at the effects of...
All right. Are you getting sound for your side?
We're getting sound, but it's kind of pausing it.
Growing in an agroecological system versus a monoculture system. So we'll be looking at particular fruit trees and how they perform when they're grown in a polyculture or in a syntropic system with multiple species that create the biomass and the ecology for those trees to grow in, versus trees that are grown on their own in what we refer to as typical monoculture system.
So this is a research project at JCU University on far north Queensland. And the importance of that is we've been spending so much time on research on how to kill things, how to kill insects, how to kill grass, how to kill weeds, how to kill. And there is not much research done on how every element can contribute, how every plant or every insect, every microlife in the soil can add onto the macro system. In this process of being, doing, or making it, energy accumulates. And syntropy is the opposite of entropy, where systems move from complex to simple. So in syntropy, we understand that every element or every part of the system is here to contribute and enhance the energy accumulation. And if we are accumulating it, we are moving towards abundance.
Syntropic systems as an agroforestry has a great potential to produce more than monoculture. In Brazil, we had cocoa recordings of agroforest systems growing 3 times more cocoa than monoculture, whereas it is more resistant to plagues and disease, so it's much more safe for farmers growing cocoa throughout the world.
They're not only just plants, they are plants that provide food for insects, food for humans, food for wild animals, birds. And here we're trying to replicate the dynamics of the forest, following the natural succession and the stratification.
I'll be recording every step of the way, the tree growth, the comparison rates, the soil fertility, and collecting that information and data and processing that to give us evidence of what really is better and what is going to be more sustainable or more regenerative in the long term to ensure food security, but also our soil health and that of the industry around agriculture and food production in our bioregion here in North Queensland.
There you have it, folks. I hope that wasn't too kind of cutting in and out, but if it was, you can watch the full video from your own home. Just click on the link in the comments below and you can see it in full high def quality. Otherwise, I just wanted to introduce Tiago into this project, who's been leading it. It's also the co-founder of Syntropic Solutions, and really curious to explore the significance of this project and what implication this has for not just this possibility of syntropy being applied on a larger scale, but also for the way that we do agriculture as a whole across the world. So why is this so important, Tiago?
First of all, thank you guys for the opportunity again. It's nice to show some of the work that we've been doing, and this specific job that we are working with Mars. It's amazing in many aspects. We have on this research project, the idea is to take into account how the biodiversity, how the resilience, how every element within the forest can actually benefit the system as a whole. So the research, as Jay said at the beginning, the research will be biodiversity, resilience for each plant in the system, will be soil biodiversity, financial viability, and Mars, as being one of the biggest chocolate buyers in the world. They buy chocolate from over 1 million farmers around the world, from farmers with 1 hectare to farmers with thousands of hectares. And most of the cocoa plantations that we see nowadays, they are all monoculture based, where plants are growing isolated. Some of them, they have a little bit of canopy, but most of the management is done by inputs. So yeah, sprays and fertilizers and more sprays, more fertilizer. And when I got approached by Mars, it was so good to have the opportunity to work with such a big company and see the impact that the job that we're going to do, the research that will be done with scientists at the university, that will show the benefits of growing plants where they're supposed to be growing within the forest ecosystem. And yeah, so as some people know, where a lot of people might know, syntropic farming started with Ernest Gutsch, and his main crop at his farm is cocoa. And when you see his farm, it looks like a huge forest, and it's a highly productive forest. It's not like as we see most of the cocoa farms around the world. Yeah.
Very good. Thanks for sharing, Tiago.
I'd love to ask you a question, Tiago.
Yeah, yes, please. Yossi?
Yeah, just like, you know, when we think of syntropic farming, there is obviously a lot of inputs that are needed, you know, to create these systems of resilience and abundance. So how does a company like Mars, if it's going to implement some of these principles, there's obviously probably going to be more upfront costs. So, you know, how does that pay off in financial terms, or like in practical terms for them on these farms in the way of financial viability?
So basically, when I first got approached by them, the concern for the company was that a lot of the farmers who are producing at the moment, they are losing their crops for disease and pests. So there is a huge concern, because the company's demand for cocoa is increasing. More and more people are buying chocolate, and farmers themselves, they production costs are increasing too. So the price is not increasing, but the production cost is increasing. So it means that some of the farmers are giving up on cocoa. So they are trying to show here, because they spend a lot of time and money on research, but most of the research is spent on monoculture. It is very little research on diversity. And also for these farmers, by having different crops growing with cocoa, they don't rely 100% only on cocoa price. So if some years they make a little bit less on cocoa, and they can sell papaya at the beginning of the beginning of the system, we are planting a lot of hardwood timber there too. So eventually, in 15, 20, 30 years, they can go in, prune the system, and harvest the hardwood timber. Definitely, there is higher costs on the implementation, but I can tell you that the ongoing costs and the benefits on the health of the farmer themselves will be hugely huge, you know. So that's how I see that the cost will match. So at the beginning, the cost is high, but as we go, the cost will decrease, because you need less and less input. And yeah, that's what I think that the system will do. And Jay, I remember when we implemented it, that soil that we did, that's what most of the farms now are. That's how we encounter most of the farms nowadays. Tell us a little bit about the soil. How was the process when we first got there?
Yeah. Interesting enough, actually, the plot that had already been used previously, was quite degraded. The area is sort of in the foothills of where we are here in Cairns, of the range, and the university had basically acquired the land, and when land gets cleared and left deforested for a period of time, it loses a lot of its organic matter, it loses a lot of that life, and the heavy rains that we have and the big rain events, you know, can compact soils, and of course machinery then coming across the soil and putting the plot in, you know, gave us a pretty hard substrate to work with, and quite lifeless. Yeah, so to get to you know, a friable state, you know, we bring in machines, and so, and as Yossi said, you know, there is upfront costs, and like with any significant agricultural project, you know, sort of what you put in is what you get out in a sense, and I love how Tiago refers to the inputs, you know, those big inputs at the start that sort of taper down. And it's almost as if like the outputs increase, you know, as you know, as the system life centralizes, you know, it's like the more complexity, the more life, the more growth, the more fertility, the more abundance, you know, happens in these systems. And like we know that we've seen this, and it's so good now to be able to share this with such a large company.
Yeah.
What just comes to me as you're saying is,
sorry, Yossi, go on.
As you're saying this is, since we're also like, we're building soil, right? We're building abundant, complex soil which can support, you know, life. It can support complex life, and like for me, that's gold. Like to build black, rich soil where you can really plant anything and be quite confident that you'll get an abundance. That's, you know, becoming quite rare in the world to have this rich soil. Everyone there, can you grow?
The thing is, I see, because we planted the cocoa.
Yeah.
Because we planted the cocoa, we planted the hardwood timber for the long run as well, for the long term. But we also planted pineapples to start with. We planted papayas. We planted, even on the first couple of months, we have beans coming up. And so it will give the farmer a source of income on the first few years that actually in monoculture, they don't have access to this source of income when they first start. So definitely it is, it's, as you said, it's more complex. This complexity will hold more life, but also will generate more income in through the whole process as well.
As we saw on that clip there.
And then I like to feel like how rich soil is. Sorry, go ahead.
I think there's a little delay there. Sorry, guys. We saw on the clip, Jeremy was holding a little plant, you know, and things were being put in. Tiago said, you know, we planted a variety of species, and in a typical conventional or a monoculture system, you know, we have rows and rows of one species, and that one species has a preference. It has like a dietary requirements, you know, and if we all went to the buffet and our favorite dish was the salad, you know, we would eat up that salad probably pretty quickly, you know, and maybe the deep fried stuff wouldn't get touched as much. Whereas in a syntropic system with that diversity and complexities, you know, we have a variety of tastes almost, and those species all interchange with their preferences. So we're also, you know, leveling the playing field in a way in by diversifying what we put on there is also diversifying what's coming out of the soil. And so some of those species that really act to serve the soil more than others in their pruning and the mulching of the soil, you know, give back to the soil as well. Not everything is harvested for food, but everything has a purpose and everything has a place. And I've got a little clip here, guys. Tiago, you've seen it. It's just 20 seconds from the recent update of the site, and should be able to bring that up, and I'll give you a look there. And
so we planted that like just over a month ago, and it's beautiful to see that nothing died. You know, like everything is alive. We haven't lost one plant, and to start with, we started with mung beans, so we should be able to harvest some mung beans in the next couple of months. Yeah, that looks good, man. Yossi and I, we did a lot of studies on not only on cocoa, because Yossi is in New Zealand, and he was going to go to Bali to implement a system there, but also we studied a lot about coffee, and both of those plants, they occupy a very important place in the system. That's the understory of the forest. So if we understand the importance of having these long-term plants understory, it's so important for the system, because any system needs to have a structure. Systems without structure, they collapse. And when you see in nature, most of the thriving patches of forests, they are very dense at the bottom and very low density on the top. So having cocoa or coffee underneath, it's so good to keep more moisture in the system, to keep more water flowing, keep more nutrient cycling in the system. And those plants, they drop these juice leaves every year that fill the ground with organic matter. And yeah, and that's just some of the benefits of putting the plants where they're supposed to be. And you also, through the studies that we did together, anything that comes, because you are now retrofitting a system in New Zealand that were missing some of those plants. Anything that comes to your mind that you'd like to share with us?
Just that it's so much easier to some plants that you've planted from the beginning, and yeah, having this idea of having density at the bottom layer, and how you have really this thermodynamic energy, which is pulling water and stuff down to the ground, and it's so nice to then work amongst your trees and amongst your system, where you can feel kind of the forest emerging and the life emerging.
Yeah, so now we planted at this project at JCU University. You see, we planted like long-term trees that some of them will not stay, but they will. We planted like from casuarinas to different types of eucalyptus and African mahogany. So there are trees every 20, 30 centimeters, and with every cassava, every meter, we put a bunch of native seeds and fast-growing plants that will grow after the cassava, so that we can avoid the weeding part that a lot of the farmers, when they first start the crops, when they first start the crops, they have to always go back there and do weeding to keep the weeds away from the base of the plants. And because we planted so dense, we don't have that problem. Definitely we do selective pruning instead of selective weeding. And yeah, and we also did a study for one of the crocodile farms on Northern Territory here as well, where the main reason is not only to do reforestation, but the main reason of setting up these 300 hectares is to offload the water full of nutrients that comes out of the crocodile tanks. So when you see these big companies, one thing that I'd like to point here, and even ask a question for you guys here, to see these big companies looking for sustainable solutions or regenerative solutions, it is so good that for the future of agriculture or the future of food production. Because if you see the big players changing their mind, I don't even know what's the main reason behind they wanting to apply different solutions for the crops, they give us hope, doesn't it? Well, I would like to take your words on that. Any of you guys?
Yeah, I've just managed to bring up the little clip there.
Okay.
We can see a little papaya there, the eucalyptus, the pineapples, as you mentioned. There's a cassava in there, the bean seeds, banana, a little bit of bug on that banana, and another little papaya there just springing back after in the ground. And that tree there has also got the avocado and mango along that row as well. So it's coming along, even in just a short time.
Yes, it's so good to see, huh? But yeah, before we close this, because normally we try to keep the video 20 to 30 minutes. So before we close, I'd like to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts to see big corporations like Mars and a few others that we are working with the Syntropic Solutions, they approaching us for more sustainable solutions or more regenerative solutions? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to make this my catch line. I'm excited. Coming into permaculture, over a decade ago, I could see that need, and I really relate to the elders or my teachers in permaculture, that have almost anticipated the need for system change. And over the years, seeing how permaculture has spread and grown, and then to have Syntropics as almost something that had been happening alongside it from a different part of the earth, come into being as a really stable, strong, sure, and proven way to grow a sustainable and regenerative food production. I'm almost undoubting that more and more businesses and organizations will look to syntropic styles of food production and understanding permaculture as a way to design these systems, and how we can not only meet the economic viability from farms and maintain those yields, but also the environmental viability, and ensure that the soils that we're using, the ground that we walk and our country that we live on and share will be passed on to the next generation in a good way, which unfortunately, there's a lot of reports in Australia of a lot of young people really struggling with the concept to carry on the family farm. And in my personal experience, it's rising input costs, control of the market, and the ability for farmers to actually earn economic return because of the way that the market, the food transportation and distribution systems are set up, and worst of all, the soil degradation. The food now, when tested, it doesn't have the same levels of nutrients in it that it did 30, 40 years ago, because the soil itself doesn't hold those minerals, nutrients, and trace elements that really bring out, that full buffet of availability in what soil has to offer and what is naturally occurring in our fruits and vegetables. And so by large corporations seeing this as not only what it does for the environment and also the livelihoods of those people that are doing it, but they can also then create that change and be seen as leaders and be seen as the ones that are have the influence and affluence to create this change that's so needed on the earth now, with everything that's going on. How important it is to ensure that our food is healthy and as available to as many people as possible. So, yeah.
What are your thoughts on? What are your thoughts, Yossi, on these big corporations taking the lead on change? You know, like moving towards more sustainability. Yeah.
Yeah, I think like what you said, Tiago, there's probably all sorts of different reasons why they're looking at different options. And what comes to me is responding to consumer demand, certain markets, and certain demographics, you know, starting to question and, you know, where their food is coming from. I think, like you said, you know, with this example with Mars and their cacao plantation suffering, and perhaps their farmers suffering, and actually needing to come up with practical, viable solutions, whether it is a financial incentive or whatever other incentive. The fact that they're having, you know, they're almost having to use the basic, you know, principles of nature to rectify their financial situation, I think is great. And we will all learn together through that understanding. And yeah, you know, the more companies adopting these practices, you know, the more consciousness it brings into those companies, into those employees and employers and bosses, and into all their consumers. Yes, to everyone.
Makes sense. So I think that was great to hear from you guys, and I think I've been approached by governments, big corporations, and I can definitely see the change on the horizon, you know, and a lot of individuals as well, people who are taking up family farms. They just don't want to grow on the normal way, where the conventional way where farmers used to grow food. So they are looking for different solutions. And because of COVID, we cannot travel a lot and do the on-site consultations. We've been running this mentorship program where it's a group meeting on a weekly basis where people can ask questions and implement the system. So the whole program will be, we talk the theory, we get to the practical side, we get each one to implement systems on their own capacity, small if they have a small backyard, or big if they want to go for hectares of it. And then they share here the experience over the time, and everyone gets to learn together. So it's good to see big corporations and also see enthusiasts, farming enthusiasts, or hobby farmers, or farmers in general. Everyone wants to whoever wants to learn. We are here to share the learnings, because each farm will have their own challenge. You know, they have their own how can I say, their own context, and we are here to share our learnings, systems that we implemented from tropical to temperate, semi-arid to subtropical. And here we got, just on this video, North Queensland, right in the tropics. We got Yossi in New Zealand, where it's subtropical, but it's a little bit temperate subtropical. And I am here on the subtropic as well. All of us, we've been working with different projects all over the world. I worked with Jay on a project in Vanuatu as well, where he came in first, did a little bit of the design and for a community there, and then we came in and implemented the system for this indigenous community there. Yossi and I, we worked on this eco village on the northern rivers here, and a lot of learnings that we'd love to share with everyone. And to close this, we don't want to extend that. You guys would like to say anything before we finish today?
Thanks, Tiago. Yeah, always a pleasure. working with you, brother, and let this business, this company that is taking this on, be the first of many. And the projects that are on the board there are exciting.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank
yeah.
you, Jay. Thank you for coming, buddy. And let's
Yes.
do more of these. I love these bouncing ideas, and we can share to everyone that once they are not where we are, but they can learn a little bit what we learned from our experience. And Yossi, anything that you want to say?
No, I feel good. Yeah, let's grow food and make forests.
Let's grow food and plant forests.
Yeah.
Yossi is being implementing a system there, man. We can see him. It's like he's going energy level now after being on a farm all day. It's taking up on him. Okay. Thank you, Shay, for having us. I love your work, buddy. I love what you do. And thank you guys for joining me today. And thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
Amazing. See you soon.
Cheers, guys. Big shout out to Earth Heroes TV.